ஜவுளி கைவினைப் பொருட்கள் துறையினுடைய செயலாளர் தர்மேந்திர பிரதாப் யாதவ் IAS அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கிறார்கள். அவர்களை நாம் இந்த மாநாட்டு குழுவின் சார்பில் வருக வருக என்று வரவேற்கிறோம். அடுத்ததாக நம்முடைய லெதர் ப்ரொமோஷன் கவுன்சில் கவர்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா அதனுடைய மேனேஜிங் டைரக்டர் மேலாண்மை இயக்குனர் திரு R. செல்வம் இந்திய ஆட்சி பணி அலுவலர் அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கிறார்கள். அவர்களையும் வருக வருக என்று இந்த அமர்வின் சார்பாக வரவேற்கிறோம். அடுத்ததாக இணைய வழியாக நம்மோடு இணைந்து இந்த அமர்விலே தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை வழங்க இருக்கிற சிங்கப்பூருடைய முன்னாள் இந்திய வணிக குழுமத்தினுடைய தலைவர் M. ராஜாராம் அவர்கள் இணைய வழியாக இணைந்து இந்த அமர்விலே பங்கேற்று தம்முடைய கருத்துக்களை வழங்க இருக்கிறார்கள். அவர்களையும் நம் அனைவரும் சார்பாக வரவேற்கிறோம். அடுத்தபடியாக இணைய வழியாக இணைந்து கருத்துக்களை வழங்க இருக்கிற அமெரிக்க ஐக்கிய நாடுகளில் நியூயார்க்கிலிருந்து நம்முடைய தொழிலதிபர் K.O. தாமஸ் அவர்கள் தங்களுடைய கருத்துக்களை வழங்க இருக்கிறார்கள். அவர்களையும் இந்த அமர்விற்கு வருகை தருமாறு நாம் அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். வெளியிலே இருக்கிற நண்பர்கள், ஆங்காங்கே இருக்கிற பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் அரங்கிற்குள் வந்து இந்த அமர்வினை தொடங்குவதற்கு பேருதவி செய்யுமாறு அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். இன்றைக்கு வருகை தந்திருக்கிற பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் அனைவரும் இன்று நாள் முழுவதும் அமர்விலே இருந்து தங்களுடைய கருத்துக்களை வழங்குமாறு அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். இப்பொழுது மாநாட்டின் இரண்டாவது நாள் இரண்டாவது அமர்வு பிசினஸ் எமர்ஜிங் பிசினஸ் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டிஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் அப் அண்ட் இன்னோவேட்டிவ் ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ் என்ற தலைப்பிலே இந்த அமர்வு நிகழ இருக்கிறது. அமர்வுக்கினுடைய தலைவர் பொருளாதாரத்துறை பேராசிரியர் பிஜேபி குழுவினுடைய தலைவர் எங்களுடைய மதிப்பிற்கும் வணக்கத்திற்கும் உரிய ஐயா பழனிஜி பெரியசாமி ஐயா அவர்களையும் அவர்கள் அணியிலே இருக்கிற பேச்சாளர் பெருமக்களையும் வருமாறு அன்போடு அழைக்கின்றோம். இப்பொழுது இந்த அமர்வினுடைய அமர்வு களம் பேராசிரியர் ஐயா பழனிஜி பெரியசாமி அவர்கள் கரங்களிலே ஒப்படைக்கப்படுகிறது. இந்த அமர்வை நடத்தி தருமாறு அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். அதற்கு முன்பாக மாநாட்டினுடைய நேற்று நான் நன்றி உரையிலே சொல்வதற்கு விடுபட்ட ஒரு செய்தியை சொல்ல வேண்டும். மாநாட்டிலே பங்கேற்று நேற்று வாழ்த்துரை வழங்கிய ஒவ்வொருவருக்கும் அவர்கள் பேசி முடிந்ததும் தனித்தனியாக நம்முடைய மாநாட்டு அமைப்பாளர் டாக்டர் VR சம்பத் அவர்கள் தனித்தனியாக நன்றி சொன்னார். ஆனால் ஒருவருக்கு மட்டும் அவர் நன்றி சொல்ல மறந்து விட்டார். அது யார் என்றால் அவருக்குத்தான் அவர் நன்றி சொல்ல மறந்தார். எனவே அவர் மறந்த அந்த நன்றி அறிதலை இப்பொழுது நம் அனைவரும் சார்பாக டாக்டர் VR சம்பத் அவர்களுக்கு பல்வேறு இடர்பாடுக்கிடையில் இந்த மாநாட்டை நடத்தி கொண்டிருக்கிற அவருடைய ஆக்கத்திற்கும் துணிவான அந்த உழைப்புக்கும் முயற்சிக்கும் நாம் நன்றி சொல்லுகிறோம். இப்பொழுது தொடக்க உரையாக முன்னுரையாக இன்றைய நாள் அமர்வுடைய தொடக்க உரையாக சில சொற்களை பேசுமாறு மாநாட்டு அமைப்பாளர் டாக்டர் VR சம்பத் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைக்கின்றேன்.
காலை வணக்கம். Today we all assembled to listen second session speeches in the morning. Today's morning topic: emerging business opportunities, startup and innovative projects. You know all very well, the economic conference always planned such a way to help for the businessmen, professionals, common public and intellectual academicians and economists to help each other to bring health, wealth, money, so resources to prosperous more. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Pazhaniji Periyasamy, Chairman of the PGP Group of Companies and also Chairman of the Hotel Lille Royal Meridian. Sir, Dr. Pazhaniji Periyasamy is one of the patron of this conference and also is supported from time to time for this conducting this conference for the past many years. Not only that, Dr. Pazhaniji Periyasamy himself is a professor of economics and lived in America more than 20 years and moved here, and he established a business in India in different establishment, education, healthcare, hospitality and housing and many other projects, sugar and many other projects. Dr. Palani Perisami, we honored once as a crown jewel of world Tamils from our organization. Dr. Palani Perisami was a close friend of Dr. MGR and also the present Chief Minister, past Chief Minister, and many other politicians and government officials, and a highly connected man. He is now chairing this session. He can give his idea about through this session. And also I am welcoming Mr. D.P. Yadav, is a senior most IAS officer, served in different department, housing department, MSME department, energy department. Now he's in co-op tax. He served as a district collector in my native district of Vellore district. And also he's always participated in the first conference 2009. When I went for Singapore for promotional activities, he participated in all the meetings. Next, Mr. K.O. Thomas is a president of the America Tamil Sangam, as well as the America Malayali Sangam. Both Sangams is controlling in New York and is helping Tamil community and Malayali community in New York. And also is basically an advocate and also a real estate lawyer. Not only that, when I went 2019 to promote a conference, he organized a special promotional meeting for this 2019 conference. I requested him to give a speech. He agreed. He will come online, I think. And now it's the American time, probably midnight, New York time. I don't know whether he will come because he sent a message, he will come. உங்கள் அனைவரையும் இந்த இன்றைய முதல் செஷன்ல அமர்வில் வரவேற்பதில் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றேன். அரங்கம் குறைவான கூட்டங்கள் இருந்தாலும் கூட இந்த பேசுகிற அனைவரையும் பேச்சை கேட்பதற்கு ஃபேஸ்புக்கிலும் யூடியூப், ஜூம் 3 வழியாக இணைப்பு கொடுக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. உலகம் முழுவதும் பலருக்கும் இதனுடைய இணைப்பு அனுப்பப்பட்டுள்ளது. நேற்று மாலை ஒரு 6-7 பேச்சாளர், அதாவது கயானா பிரைம் மினிஸ்டர், கயானா ஃபார்மர் பிரைம் மினிஸ்டர், Mauritius former president, and sitting minister of finance from South Africa, and many other VIPs presented their speech. Lot of foreign Tamils participated last evening. Because today also I'm expecting many people will come online, and also our local participants also will come person very soon. I am welcoming one and all for this morning session. I am requesting Dr. Palani G. Perisami to present his chair. As a chair, he can present his speech.
Good morning to all of you. It gives me great pleasure to address this session on emerging business opportunities, startup and innovative projects. I am very happy to have in our midst Mr. Dharmendra Pratap Yadav, who is Secretary to Government of Co-op and Handlooms, Textile and Handicrafts and Government of Tamil Nadu. And Mr. Selvam, who represents as a Managing Director of Leather Promotion Council, Government of India, and Mr. Rajaram from Singapore, and Mr. Thomas from the United States. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Sambath for having chosen me to head this session, because it's today the main topic around the world is startup. And many of you may or may not know what is startup. Startup is to establish a business. How do you establish a business? You establish with an idea and a vision. If you look at Microsoft or Tesla or any other thing, Facebook, anything that you think of, including Dell computer, Apple computer, all these things were started somewhere in the garage, somewhere in the classroom, somewhere in the remote room. How did they do? They had a vision. They came up with a concept. But many of us, we do not know the concept per se doesn't translate into a product. It has to go through a process. There are many hiccups, there are constraints, both financial and organizational constraints. That's why when you have a creative mind and innovative spirit, you need to overcome many of the obstacles for growth and obstacle for implementing your vision. And if you look at it, today, the world has changed. Before, when you start a business, it takes a long time. You advertise in the newspaper and advertise in local and advertise by word of mouth, etc. It took long time to reach the world, and your product may die in the beginning itself because of the lack of marketing and branding. Today, my dear friends, if you look at it, branding and marketing have become vital for starting any company. And instantaneously, we have opportunities. Like, for example, it may be email, or it may be social media, or digital marketing, etc. But when we innovate a new product, the product per se, as I mentioned to you, will not be enough. We must immediately get into the marketing of the product. How do we reach out the target population? We have to choose the right population. Otherwise, it will fail. And we have to go through the kind of media, which media to choose. That's also very important. And if we do that, I think the success of the startup will be there. But above all, to start a company, the constraints are more. But once you overcome the constraint, and particularly in the modern context, you know, how did this Tesla became? Now it's a star of the stock market in the world. How did he get the idea? When we were all thinking about electric motors and all that, electric cars, he put it together, the idea. And if you look at Dell Computer, that gentleman, he was a dropout of BA Economics. He just, he did not have money, and he wanted to earn some money. And so he started taking the old computer and started repairing them and give it to the people. And the idea came. Then he knew how to do it among the students. Then from there it came the Dell Computer. Likewise, you are all familiar with all the stories of how the people have started and how they ended up being the successful innovators and entrepreneurs in the world. Gone are the days when you can just start a company and go through the whole process. But today, instantaneously, you can reach the world and you can be successful. Anyway, I can go on talking that my role here is to tell you how important it is to encourage vision, encourage ideas, and help those people who like to innovate, who are having vision for coming up with new ideas and new products. Particularly, it's appropriate, Mr. Yadav and Mr. Selvam, they are all very competent people. They are all actually in the field. They can really throw a lot of highlights on how these things will translate into practical life. Because even if you take the handloom, I just saw the handloom. What a great product, superior product. But why that superior product is not known widely? How can we market it? How can we brand it? The branding and marketing are somewhat conspicuous in their absence because of the constraints. But on the other hand, if you take private entrepreneurs, they know how to market it. So there is a great divide between the public and private. And I think my suggestion is when the public sector is involved in producing products, they must give complete autonomy and independence to behave like a individual as a private entrepreneur. Then only the product can be, however superior it is, it will be sold, it will be marketed, and it will be consumed, and it will be appreciated by people, and successful entrepreneurship will be established. The same thing about leather. Leather products, in those days when I went to America in 1967, whenever I went there, they used to ask me to bring a purse and from made in Tamil Nadu. Then whenever I go, I buy about 20 or 30 purse. At that time, the product was only confined to purse and small handbags. But today, look at the variety of products that we use. The kind of leather that is being exported to all around the world. We have become pioneer. And of course, the Leather Council, in collaboration with the entrepreneurs, have really done a tremendous job. They earn foreign exchange to our country. And this exchange, it's one of the leading exchange earners. And particularly the area that we see in the northern India, Tamil Nadu, like Vellore and Vaniyambadi and other places, they really specialize. I visited about 30 years ago. One of my friends took me a leather factory in Vaniyambadi. And recently I went to another factory. What a tremendous change. It's a technology transfer. The worldwide, that kind of technology adoption, absorption by us is unbelievable. So today we are very proud to say that we can compete with anybody in the world in the leather product and its superior quality. But however, this is my small observation, why the fashion houses in Paris, they take a small product and they made it very big. But here we have superior product, we have not been able to make it big. We don't conduct some visible fashion shows. And the Paris fashion shows every year is the attraction of the world. But why we have not a similar show not being conducted on an international scale? National scale, you do conduct. In fact, we were privileged to host many of the fashion shows for leather product here. However, we have to think international, we have to think global, and then only we have to also adopt the global marketing techniques and methods. Then only our products, the quality of the product will be known to the world, and thereby it will increase our global reach in terms of both visibility and also foreign exchange earnings and success of the product. With these words, I would like to have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Yadav to have his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Chair given a detailed speech, and also I closely watch how many people watching all over the world. I seen the many people watching YouTube as well as Zoom connection and also Facebook. Facebook, you can see the Madras Development Society account, MDS. Anybody can watch through MDS. And also the Facebook, YouTube World Tamil Economic Conference, separate account. If you put like that, anywhere in the world, they can watch YouTube also, this program. Zoom, already we sent a connection number. They can watch through them. Now I am requesting Mr. K.O. Thomas, Koshi O. Thomas. I already explained in detail about his background. He studied law in Madras Law College, and he born and brought up in Chennai only. He moved to New York as a lawyer and a practicing lawyer in New York. Apart from that, he's running many NGOs. He's actively doing political activities in Democratic Party in New York. He recently contested in the election of the councillor election in New York. He is the president of the America Tamil Sangam and also America Malayali Association. And I am requesting Mr. Koshi Thomas present his speech through Zoom online.
Honorable
Mr. Koshi, is it okay? You can unmute your mic. I think you are all right.
Yeah.
Yes, you can start. Some echo because you switch off other phones. If you switch off other phones and other equipment, only switch on your own computer, it will be no echo. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You can start.
My dear brother, Dr. V.R. Sampath, this World Tamils Economic Conference conveners, chairman, excellencies, delegates, judges, learneds, and all our friends who are really interested in bringing economic development into Tamil Nadu and wherever Tamil entrepreneurs and Tamil culture lovers. I'm really honored to be amidst with you all in this record-breaking world conference. Today is really an auspicious day. After so many months, or even I would say so many years, or even a couple of years, I would say, we got an opportunity to come to see each other, meet each other in person. In the world record or in the world age, as it said, before Christ and after Christ, we are in the world before Corona and after Corona. Keeping that in mind, I praise God Almighty for bringing us all together, and especially for this opportunity to speak. As Dr. Sampath said, my name is Koshi O. Thomas, born in Kerala, brought up in Madras, grew up in Madras. The world says, and the Tamil Nadu, the real slogan, Vandare Vaazhavaikum Tamizhagam. I personally have benefited out of that slogan and the reception I have gotten. The schools where I studied in Madras, the colleges, Madras Law College, and wherever I went, the Tamil community receive and accept anybody. So with that promotion, I was able to get good education, and I was able to settle down in New York, USA. I'm a law graduate, but when I came into this country, New York, I could not get into the legal practice right away. So then I got into the real estate. In Madras, I was in LIC housing finance. So with that knowledge, I got into real estate and housing finance here in America. Now, the subject given to me is to say or to witness myself as a successful real estate and finance consultant. The America, you know, it's land of opportunity. And when it comes to real estate, it is location, location. So real estate worldwide, wherever it is, it has its own value. Whether it's India or Middle East or Australia or any other place. But when it comes to the prime, benefit, I'm experiencing the location in USA and especially in New York. I'm proud and I'm glad that I am actually operating my business from the capital city of the world. So keeping that in mind, the opportunity in real estate and the real estate financing is plenty, enormous. Anybody can be successful. Now, especially world economy is changing. There's a lot of businesses or a lot of investments you could do, but when you invest in real estate, it's a solid investment. You will never go wrong when you invest in real estate, especially in America. So as the economy is changing from the physical transactions to the digital transactions, with the internet access, anybody can invest anywhere, especially in America. There's plenty of opportunity for investors to invest here. Foreign investors are promoted here by the government. Foreign investors, you know, if you are establishing a business here, you can visit here any number of times. You will become a business person and your investment is protected 100%. It cannot go wrong. The investment minimum you need is, if you're buying a property for $100,000, we have programs, you know, starting from 10% to 30%. Foreign investors, we need approximately around 25%. But then if you start a business here, and if you are operating that investment from your LLC or corporation here, there are programs with exceptional guidelines. You can buy a property even with 10%. Of course, the property has to qualify. The property has to have enough equity. And the borrower has to show the credibility from the originating country and the operating country here in USA. The real estate market here now, worldwide, the foreclosure, the properties which are worth around $100,000, you might be able to buy it for $50,000 or $60,000. But right now the market is very prime because of the property movement. From the city, people are moving to suburban, urban to suburban, and suburban to urban. There's plenty of transactions going on. So with that, the property value there are certain areas, $100,000 property value. I mean, the property valued $100,000, you might be able to get it for $50,000. So you have 50% equity there. And you might be able to spend around $20,000 to renovate the property. Also, the transactions expenses, the financial expenses, all that thing. The maximum your investment will be 70% or 70,000. So a solid 30% equity is definitely available in almost all properties. Since I am in this country for almost 30 years, I and my associates, we have connections and we have knowledge into different markets. So we are very optimistic in getting properties with a 50 to 70% investment. And there's, on an average, there is a 30% equity available. Now, any property found, you have this much equity. Now, in order to buy that, we take care of the financings also. So like I said, if the property has enough equity, some properties you might get it with 50% equity or 60% equity. So you're getting the property for 40%. So in that kind of situation, you might be able to get with the 10% down payment or 10% investment. So if the property is worth $100,000, you will be able to get the property between 10 to 30% down payment. So the financing has become very easy because the government, they want to promote the real estate. They want to promote people moving into suburbans so that, you know, the lifestyle will be spread out. People are moving from multi-story properties to single properties. In other words, multi-storied apartment buildings, people are moving to individual single-family homes. So that makes more, that is bringing more value to the single-family, two-family investment, rental properties, condos, and even co-ops, even commercial properties, commercial units. People are actually, some of the commercial units are converted into condominiums. So it becomes residential. It's a very vast subject. We have to discuss this in detail. I don't want to confuse, but to keep it very precise, I would say, if any of you have any questions, please reach out to us. Our website address is lendme.com. www.lendme, LENDME.com. It has our information, my telephone number, our company number, and any questions anytime. Plus, since I'm a law graduate, we have a legal knowledge also. I have a lot of friends associated with us as attorneys, practicing attorneys. I myself concentrating into real estate and real estate financing and the real estate transactions. We have lawyers who practice just real estate. So we can, you know, get more information through them, make the transactions 100% perfect, especially with the guidance of Dr. V.R. Sampath, who visits New York almost twice a year. You know, he's a bridge between Tamil Nadu, or even I would say India to international. He visits almost all country. He has dedicated all his life, along with his team of his friends from Madras Development Corporation. They have dedicated their life to uplift Tamil Nadu, Tamil, Tamil economy, you know, investors, entrepreneurs. He has been doing all that. So he has the right connection, and he's actually, what I can say, watches everything. He actually monitors everything. So he will make sure nothing can go wrong, especially with the government's promotion. Today's Tamil Nadu's government promotion in any field, every field, industries, education, and finance. I like your finance minister, such a learned personality. In his young age, the ideas and motivations coming out of his administration, it's a golden opportunity to bridge the international connection. And with that, we all can grow together, prosper together, succeed together. With all best wishes from New York, Koshi Thomas signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. In the late night, you given a wonderful speech, and also you dress up very well in the night, and you presented very well about the conference and your activities, your business proposal and investment opportunities in New York and other areas on real estate. Now I am requesting Mr. D.P. Yadav, IAS Secretary, Department of Co-op Tax, Handlooms, Textiles and Handicrafts, Government of Tamil Nadu, present his speech.
Dr. Sampath, Dr. Periswamy, Mr. Selvam, the master of the ceremony, I'm missing the name, Mr. Muthivel, all other distinguished invitees to this conference here and across the globe, logged on to Zoom and to YouTube and whatever other social media channels are there. Very warm and pleasant good morning, good night, good evening, whatever it is, to the different locations. I'm extremely happy to be here again. I think probably this is my fourth conference I'm attending. And let me congratulate first of all Dr. Sampath, who had been tirelessly working to unite the Tamil diaspora across the globe and bring them back to their roots, to help the people, to help the community, to help the Tamil Nadu economy to grow and the people to get the jobs and opportunities for development. Probably it is precursor to the Pravasi Bharati, which happens once in 2 years. Much before that, probably he started this. And then maybe the taking cue from that, the Ministry of External Affairs started with the Pravasi Bharati conference, which happens once in 2 years, where the entire Indian diaspora comes to India and discusses what they can do. And in that diaspora, I think Tamil Nadu, people from Tamil Nadu are there in a large scale and at very higher positions and have been really working well in all disciplines, whether it be academics, whether it be medicine, whether it be business. Wherever I have gone, I have found the Tamil population dominating in all aspects, whether it is USA, whether it is Canada. Toronto, I think, put together Sri Lanka and Sri Lankan Tamils and Tamils or from Tamil Nadu will be almost constituting 25% of the population, 20% of the population, and the highest population, and it is the capital of economic capital of Canada. I have seen in Japan, I have seen in of course Malaysia. We don't need to talk about Malaysia and Singapore. So put together, I think the maximum number of people after maybe or equal to the Punjab maybe Tamil population, and in terms of economic wealth and the excellences which has been created, Tamil Nadu may be the number in the country. Dr. Palniswamy, he is an eminent, I will say, like one of the non-resident Indians who came to India, and he has done so well. Of course, challenges in life do happen, and certain challenges do happen, so that we get through that. So coming back, like Tamil diaspora being such vast and this thing, so, and Tamil Nadu being one of the ideal destinations for global investment, and it being the Detroit of India, and also in everything, like nothing can compete the manufacturing excellence which the Coimbatore has, and the Coimbatore and the surrounding areas have, whether it is automobiles, whether it is textiles, whether it is forging, or you talk about any industry. And the industriousness of the people is tremendous. So there is a scope for Tamil Nadu. There are skills, there are educational institutions, there is a connectivity, there is logistics. We boast of very good so many airports, and one of the highest density of national highways, 4-lane, 6-lane national highways, node-based industrialization, unfolded by the Tamil Nadu government, and taking up enormous push on infrastructure on those nodes, like Chennai Bangalore Industrial Corridor, Chennai Kanyakumari Industrial Corridor, then defense manufacturing corridor. Those kind of things are there. And southern Tamil Nadu right now is the main focus for the state. And our industrial policy provides very good packages depending on the amount of investment which is proposed to be brought. So all put together, I'll only say that you can establish your manufacturing facility or any kind of enterprise anywhere in Tamil Nadu. You will not have dearth of technical manpower. That is why the industry is far and wide spread in very interior areas. I was collector Vellore when it was one district. In Arakonam, you have got MRF, you have got Ultratech, you have got TVS. In Guriatam side, you go very interior areas. Again, you get so many units, especially in the leather and coconut based and then rural industries. Tirupattur and all, I'd say, like these are very interior areas to be said, but then people have established their units and people don't feel the dearth of technical manpower. They don't. So anywhere you go to South Tamil Nadu, you go to Madurai and around, you'll find n number of apparel, Virudhunagar and other things, n number of apparel units, and they don't find the manpower shortage, good trained manpower shortage. Of course, that is a challenge. We are facing this challenge again, trained manpower, the industry is facing it. But to say there are enormous opportunities in Tamil Nadu to invest, so whole Tamil diaspora can look at coming and looking at that opportunities. And that way again, I'll congratulate Dr. Periswamy and Dr. Sampath for bringing this forum together to think what to do, to grow themselves and also in the process to grow the entire Tamil population. There are challenges to the new world, and especially post-corona, there has been a formalization of the economy and the small sectors. Tamil Nadu is the the backbone of industrialization had been the MSME sector. And all these big industries grew, it became Detroit, because what we did in 1960s, whether in Coimbatore or in Guindy or in Ambattur, these were the backbones for this whole automobile revolution which happened in this country, in this part of the country. Even in IT and into other related things also, a lot of developments are going on. But this new change which is happening in the world, unless we all work together, may marginalize us. More and more formalization, more bigger production centers, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, data analytics. They are concentrating the businesses. They are making whole distribution system, production system, and consumption system all getting centralized. So small kirana stores to small businesses to small eateries, everything is going on. There is a concept of cloud kitchens, and the lot of aggregators. Today the aggregators are earning more than the actual producers and these things. Today the Swiggy's business is much more than the whole ITC chain or whole Taj chain or any of these things. So that is the level of formalization, and that is the level of concentration of the business opportunities and the wealth which is happening. And maybe we say that the Swiggy's and delivery boys of Danjos are getting the business opportunities today. They are getting the employment opportunities today. Or the Olas and all are giving the employment opportunities today. Today they may be earning 15,000, 20,000. But after 20 years also they will be earning the same thing. There will be no business, there will be no growth opportunities for them. So if these things happen, definitely the small is beautiful will go off. So this is not a challenge for Tamil diaspora also. This is challenge for the entire human community to see how still that individual freedom is left out, that the decentralized production, distribution, those kind of things do happen. Formal sectors had been killed during the corona. The impact has not been studied. The amount of MSMEs have died. The amount of small businesses have been finished is unknown. The kind of catastrophe which has happened is unknown. So that is the kind of thing happening. But coming back to that, when we talk about innovation, Tamil Nadu, somehow, like I was MSME secretary some 3 years back, and we came out with Tamil Nadu innovation policy. And of course, we came out with the policy. We had certain very progressive features into the policy, but they have to be further worked on that, including venture capital and those kind of things and all. So structures need to be created. So there is a forum for that. But whole innovation is looked at as if it is IT based. I know that today without technology, without IT, nothing can be done. But still the innovation, the local innovations, there are large number of innovations happening in these small places. How do their businesses and all, like in small these things, that is not treated as innovation. Innovation is like something which is IoT, which is data analytics, which is related to the IT. Their own is the innovation. Somehow this focused innovation may land us into trouble for the entire humanity. So we have to identify a lot of other kinds of innovations which are already available. Rather, we identify those and reach out to those people, those small businesses, and still see that the physical business still happens, because that is where the entire human population, if we say that we have got those 140 billion people, like million people in India, sorry, I don't know, 140 crores, 140 crore will convert into 1.4 billions. So where will they go? What will they do if these things happens, and if these local innovations in the physical form are not assisted? So that is a challenge. I today represent handloom and textile sector. One of the most vibrant economies in Tamil Nadu and the best in the country. Tamil Nadu, Tirupur and Coimbatore alone boast of almost 12% of our apparel and textile exports to the world, though India constitutes just 5% of the global textile and apparel trade, which is very low compared to many other countries. Of course, China was always there. Then due to geopolitical circumstances, now people are talking about China plus one. But then in that China plus one, the Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, those countries are attracting more people than India, which has got a tremendous amount of skill, manpower, knowledge, and we are one of the highest producers of cotton too. And our other advantages are there. So in this change scenario of geopolitical circumstances, there is a tremendous opportunity in Tamil Nadu, and as I said already, there are structured packages. There is manpower, technical manpower availability, connectivity, port, logistics, everything is fantastic. So there is an opportunity to establish the manufacturing units. Simultaneously, there is the trade opportunity also. Handloom sector in Tamil Nadu is one of the most vibrant, I will say. Textiles, probably there can be competition from Surat, Ahmedabad, Bombay. But in handlooms, definitely Tamil Nadu still has highest number of handloom weavers, handlooms, and very, very skilled manpower with vibrant color designs and fabric designs and everything. And it is a fabric, handloom is a fabric. Handloom can be made as per your taste, as per your design. It can produce from 5 meters to 500 meters to 5,000 meters as per your taste and design. That is the flexibility available to this handloom sector. So, and into the silk weaving in the handloom, that is also there. And we are one of the largest producers of silk, next to maybe Karnataka. So, but our markets are merging. It's like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka markets for the silk do merge. So there is an opportunity. Similarly, we have got very, very skilled craftsmen in handloom sector. The kind of brass products, stone-based statue products, wood carving, and the paintings, those kind of things are there, which are extremely popular across the globe. You go any better. Our weavers are really good. Unfortunately, the weavers don't get the wage even a construction labor gets today. Weaving is treated like the weaver is given the wage. Handloom is an art and craft, I will say. He should be treated as a technical skilled person. He uses his mind, designs, color combinations, patterns of weaving. But that intelligence is not treated as intelligence. Just because I wear white shirt and coat and other things and all, and I can speak few words of English, my salary is so much. But the kind of a skill he has, the dedication he has dedicated to and learned and created, which is appreciated whenever it is used. But that skill is not recognized. So we need to recognize that as a skill to make the handlooms and these handicrafts, not the workers, these craftsmen, not to be treated as wage laborers, but as artisans who should be truly rewarded. If M.F. Husain's painting can be sold at whatever billions and millions, why not these craftsmen's art as per their skills and their appreciation and their demand? Because they don't have control over their product. Somebody else, they don't have marketing support, they are small people. They don't have working capital. There are n number of schemes and everything, but these are the challenges. They can't reach because of the large scale economy of bulk production, bulk distribution, and then the power to market in bulk. So the community, I think many of people from this Tamil diaspora may be belonging to these communities who have gone the world over and they have done much very good, but their forefathers would have made them study and work, study and grow through these skills alone. So they can take it further to see that the real appreciation of these artisans or workmen happen. Their products are distributed globally, recognized globally, and they get appropriate reward for these skills. So these kind of opportunities are there. I request you all to come forward. We will work as a business associate. Whatever possible help we will provide in both, if you want to establish manufacturing, processing. Tamil Nadu, wonderful manufacturing facilities are there in handlooms and textiles, but there is a lack of processing infrastructure. Similarly, technical textiles. There is a huge demand in technical textiles. Though, they say that almost 80% in the future, 80% of the textiles will be constituted by the technical textiles. But we have little facilities here and majority is imported. So, and Tamil Nadu has got excellent environment for doing that. We can provide the land, we can provide other assistance for the people to come and establish technical parks if some people want to do that. And similarly, in any other processing infrastructure and all, we can create those public-private partnerships. There are wonderful packages which the industries department provides and the textile policy of Tamil Nadu provides. And we are also going to revise that policy. We are working on revising that policy due to the changed geopolitical circumstances and this thing of the China +1 manufacturing trends which are happening. So once again, thank you very much, sir, and all the organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity to reach out to a larger Tamil diaspora and request them to help them out and help us too, and help ultimately the people, and also to take this wonderful art and craft from Tamil Nadu to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
டிபி யாதவ் ஐயா அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி. தமிழகத்தில் இருக்கிற கைவினைப் பொருட்கள் உலகத்தில் இது வங்காளதேசமாக இருந்தாலும் வாரணாசியா இருந்தாலும் அங்கெல்லாம் தயாரிக்கப்படுகிற கைவினைப் பொருட்களோட தரத்திலும் மேம்பாட்டிலும் உயர்ந்திருக்கிற தமிழக கைவினைப் பொருட்களை அது மேலும் உற்பத்தி செய்வதற்கான வழிமுறைகளோடு மட்டுமல்லாமல் ஒரு கட்டட தொழிலாளி வாங்குகிற ஊதியத்தை விட தன்னுடைய கற்பனை திறனையும் கைத்திறனையும் இணைத்து செய்கிற ஒரு கைவினை செய்கிறவர்களுக்கு ஊதியம் குறைவாக இருக்கிறதுங்கிற அவரை அடிமன ஆழத்தில் இருக்கிற அன்பு சுரந்த அந்த உரை மிக அருமையான உரை ஐயா, நன்றி. எப்பொழுதும் இதுவரை அவர் சொன்னது போல 4 மாநாடுகள் எங்களோடு இணைந்திருக்கிறார். எங்களுக்கு அவர் தோன்றியும் துணை செய்வார், தோன்றாமலும் துணை செய்வார். எனவே அவருக்கு எங்களுடைய நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறோம். அடுத்தபடியாக நம்முடைய அடுத்ததாக வருகிறவர் ஐயா செல்வம் அவர்கள். இந்திய அரசாங்கத்தினுடைய லெதர் ப்ரொமோஷன் கவுன்சிலுடைய செல்வம் ஐயா அவர்கள் இங்கே வருகிறதற்கார். மேனேஜிங் டைரக்டர் லெதர் ப்ரொமோஷன் கவுன்சில், கவர்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா, தன்னுடைய கருத்துரை இப்பொழுது வழங்க இருக்கிறார். அவரை அன்போடு அழைக்கின்றோம்.
Dr. V.R. Sambat, founder Madras Development Society, and also founder World Tamil Economic Conference Foundation, and Dr. Palni G. Perisami, who is chairing the session, and Mr. D.P. Yadav, Secretary Handlooms, and Muthuvel, who is organizing secretary, and Mr. Mahalingam, former ambassador, and delegates from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. So, as you all know, this World Tamil Economic Conference, many of our colleagues, especially from Tamil Nadu, would have spoken about facilities, infrastructure, and administrative convenience, everything available in Tamil Nadu. How Tamil Nadu has emerged as one of the most attractive investment destination over a period of time. It's not developed within a year, it developed over a period of time. There are lots of efforts and energy have gone into this to develop Tamil Nadu as a pioneer in many sectors. Already Mr. D.P. Yadav spoke in detail about all the sectors. He spoke about automobiles, IT sector, or educational sector, or medical tourism, or any sector, you name it, textile, of course, leather also. So here I'm going to talk about leather and footwear sector. What I want to say that I don't want to elaborate on facilities or opportunities available in Tamil Nadu. I'm going to talk about leather and footwear sector, how this sector, though this sector is 4 lakh years old, as long as it's civilization, as old as its civilization, but how it could be a startup. So it is such an old sector, how it could be a startup for today also. I'm going to talk about that one. So I initially talk about global scenario, then India and Tamil Nadu, then what are the opportunities for our global investors or businessmen or traders to come and invest in India, in Tamil Nadu, to get this opportunity. It's the right time. So if you look at the Indian leather and footwear, not only Indian leather, evolution of footwear industry, leather and footwear industry, I told it's as old as our civilization. It was existing in Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. Even it also developed over a period of time. So initially, if you look at in 18th century, I'm not going back very long. I'm starting from 18th century. If you look at initially, it started with saddlery. Why saddlery? You just recollect it. And the initial period, we were hunters. Initially, we were hunters. We used to ride on horse. So initial product developed on leather was saddlery. So to distribute the weight of man on horseback, so that saddlery was developed. That is how this leather is developed. Then saddlery, then gloves, belts, everything started to emerge in 18th century. Then the sector moved to Germany and France in 1870. So that is how it originated. Initially, it started in especially cavalry. Then it gone to the countries Germany and France. Then in the 19th century, from British it went to USA and Germany. The sector moved to USA and Germany. And in 1950, Italy became the major export country for footwear. Then it moved to Japan. That is, you can imagine how the sector moves from Europe. Europe it went to America. From America it went to Japan. From Japan it went to China. Actually, the interesting point in China is the number one country in the export today in leather and footwear product. The China, all the industries, China is known for electronics manufacturing and other development of all other trade, and China is a global manufacturing house for almost all the product. So how the industry built? The Chinese industry built basically based on the leather and footwear sector. Actually, this sector employs the unskilled and semi-skilled people. Just it doesn't require any very big technology to learn something like that. So it is a core industry. Around this industry, all other industries had been developed. That's why China emerged in the last 20 years. Then from China, this in Asian side, it is Taiwan, Vietnam, and China. These are the major hubs even today. So after that, now this is the time for India, because if you look back last 10 years, due to US and China trade disputes, and also off late after COVID issues, and also in the COVID wave 1 and 2, Vietnam is a major manufacturing center. It produces more than 23 billion. So now after COVID and all these issues, now entire world is looking for India. That's why there is a huge potential and opportunity for this sector, leather and footwear sector. Here footwear means both leather and non-leather footwear, what I'm talking. So there is a huge potential for this sector in India and especially in Tamil Nadu. So if you look at the global trade of leather and footwear, its overall size is $246 billion US. You know, as you all know, 1 billion is equal to 7,500 crores. That is the value of that industry. So it was 2009, 145 billion, it jumped to 246 billion in a decadal growth of 11.6%, something like that. So after that, industry is from 2014 in the industry is almost stagnated. That is, the growth is 1.6% only, but there is a brighter future. I will tell how it is emerging in a big way in future. So this is the overall industry size at the global level, 246 billion US. So in this, what are the major components? If you look at the leather and footwear industry, there are major components. So one is leather footwear, another component is non-leather footwear, and footwear component industry, leather goods, leather gloves, finished leather. These are the major 8 sector sub-components in the leather and footwear industry. The major sector, if you look at this one, footwear plays a major role in production and usage. Even if you recollect your, I think many of us all above 40, if you recollect your childhood, many were walked without footwear in their childhood days. We were, even while going to school, without chappal or without footwear only we walked. Today, the scenario is totally changed. So this is due to growth of this footwear industry. So it was 88 billion in 2009, and it jumped to 130 billion in 2014, and today it is 147 billion. It includes 147 billion, includes both. Out of 147 billion, 80 billion is leather footwear, and the remaining 60 billion is non-leather footwear. That is how this composition. So next one is leather goods. Leather goods includes leather bags, gloves, everything. Dr. Palani Periyaswamy, in the initial remarks, he told that branding, he told that Coach handbag, you might be knowing, it is produced in Pundamalli in Chennai suburb. Sir, the bag cost is $105. But in New York, it is $750. That is how the country image has built up. So this is how the product has developed, how Tamil Nadu and India is playing a major role. So who are the major trading countries? If you look at the major trading countries, as I already told, China is number one trading country. If you look at the export, 78 billion export value. So if you add another 13 billion, it's the import, it is 81 billion. It's the biggest country in the world today, number one country in the world for manufacturing and export and usage also. Of course, its population is 146 crore population. Next, we are touching also 140 billion. This China is the number one country in manufacturing and export, and Italy. Italy, if you look at it's at 29 billion. So Italy is a small country, but you see it is smaller than Tamil Nadu, you can say. But you see its value, how much it is producing and it is exporting. Already sir also told, Paris is a fashion house. Italy is a cradle for fashion. It's a fashion industry. If you take leather and footwear industry, it's a fashion industry. So Italy is a cradle for fashion industry. That is how traditionally it is very strong and it is exporting in a huge way. India's position is 7th in position. So I'll give some data about India later on. So then these are the exporting countries. If you take a importing countries, major country, USA imports. USA doesn't have any leather industry, even footwear industry. They procure from all over the world. They purchase from import from all over the world. They import around 42 billion US dollar of material. So next major importer, Germany imports around 18 billion, and France it is 15 billion. It's a major trading countries in the world. So here I want to emphasize on footwear consumption. If you look at the graph, it is a world footwear production. It is 24.3 billion. This is actually our population is all over the world. The population is 7.5 billion. But we produce 24 billion. So this is a production. But still many countries in the world, they don't have the footwear. Reason is, if you go to USA, they use 9 pairs per person per year. That is a per capita consumption is 9 pairs. If you come to India, it is 1.9 pairs. If you go to China, it is 3 pairs per person, per capita consumption per year. So still African countries, they don't have they don't use footwear. Still the many children, school going children and the older population, they don't have footwear. But some other countries, they are using in excessive way. Some countries, they don't have the footwear. So if you look at the top 10 footwear producing countries, China, it is 13 billion pairs they are producing. It is world share is 55%. India, it is 2.5 billion. But out of 2.5 billion, we also import some more. We totally use 2.6 billion. We consume 2.6 billion footwear in India. So our share is 10.7%, but export is very, very meager. Then next is Vietnam. That is export potential in Vietnam. Vietnam is smaller than Tamil Nadu. If you look at Vietnam, that is smaller than Tamil Nadu, it is exporting in a big way. These are the major countries. Even if you look at Bangladesh and Indonesia, they are also emerging in a very big way. So this is a global scenario. I come to India. If you look at India, why this sector is very, very important. This sector plays a major role in employment generation. Next to textile sector, this is a sector which gives a best employment opportunity. If you go to Cheyaru, there is Fengte shoe company is there. It's a non-leather, that is Nike. It's a contract manufacturer for Nike. What is the cost of Nike pair of shoes we are purchasing? We are purchasing from 8,000 to 12,000 Nike one pair. But the cost of production is 800 rupees, including their profit. But one important thing is they employ 26,000 people in one industry. It's a seeing is believing. If you go to Cheyyar, it is 1.5 hours from here. You see, you don't feel that you are in India. The kind of discipline, the kind of production, how the number of buses, around 600 buses they fly. So it is totally changed. If you look at the Cheyyar and Tiruvannamalai district in the last 10 years, the total socio-economic political atmosphere is totally changed now. The people, the next generation, how they are getting benefited. Because next generation, if you see, the children are getting education. Those times they don't get educated. They don't get education. Now all the children, they are going for professional degrees, doctor, engineer, or any other degree. They are going abroad. The scenery is totally changed. In this 26,000 also, it is 90% women. That is, Tamil Nadu is the only state in India which gives employment opportunity for 90% in the industry. So when you empower women, that totally the further education is empowered, economy is empowered, that totally the society itself getting changed. That is the beauty of this industry. So here you don't need high, what you can say, very high value or education, something like that. Even a semi-skilled or unskilled employee can go and work there. There are 600 buses. They fetch the workers from in and around. They give the best health facilities, crutches, insurance policies. All this is highly disciplined. If any of you have time, you go and visit that industry, how it totally changed the total area. That is seeing is believing. So if you look at the Indian size is 18 billion US dollar. Out of 18 billion, our export always hovers between 5 to 6.5 billion. Our highest export was in 2014. It was 6.4 billion. Our domestic industry size is 12 billion US dollar. So it is, this is a industry size, but we also import around 1.5 billion. That is a finished leather, raw material, all those things we are importing also. But if you look at the growth of Indian leather and footwear industry, initially 1950-70, we were exporting only raw hide and skins. And hide skin collection is not organized in India. Actually, in villages, you would be seeing, in villages, you would have seen that one. They cut the goat and they cut the peel of the hide and skin, they salt and they send to the industry. But in foreign countries, it is cold storage, transport, and they export and process in a better way. But there is a huge opportunity for any investors to come and do it. So this one, if you initially what we did, we export only raw hide and skins. That is also the thing. When you export the raw material, you don't add any value. That is for any sector. It is not only leather and footwear sector. If you take textile sector or any other sector, when you export, you don't add any value, you don't generate employment, you don't any foreign exchange. So the government thought, the government of India instituted 3 committees to study about this sector. Then they went for major value addition. They stopped export. If you want to export raw hide and skin, you have to pay 60% export duty. Now, of course, 40%. So government stopped that one. So the industry shifted for value addition. By that only it generated employment opportunity, it earned forex. So then major emphasis was given for modernization, expansion, technological upgradation, everything was given. And now the current scenario is in 2021, the Council for Leather Export. This organization, Apex organization, which comprises of 3,500 members, manufacturer exporters. They spread all over India. So this organization, along with the Government of India, Department of Commerce, and with all the state government, now they have the vision to jump the industry from 18 billion to 30 billion in another 4 or 5 years. Is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. That's why there is a lot of opportunity in this industry. So we want to, on the next slide I show. So this is 17.5 billion. We want to increase our production for 1.7%. If we increase 1.7%, we want to increase our market size 30 billion. So that 5 billion export should jump to 10 billion. And 12 billion domestic industry size should go to 20 billion. So we are planning to achieve 30 billion growth. This is our target for next 5 years. So if you look at that one, if you look at this figure that already told domestic from 12 to 20 billion and export 5 to 10 billion. But what would the employment potential you would be creating? Right now we employ 4.42 million, that it will go up to 5.92 million. That is around nearly 60 lakhs families will be employed in this sector. So if you look at the major manufacturing centers in India, of course, as you all know that even Mr. D.P. Yadav also told, he was collector in Vellore. There in this entire western by this belt, if you start from Pundamalli, Vellore, Vanembadi, Ambur, this is one of the major production center. Of course, there is in Erode and some industries are still exist in Dindukal and something in Trichy also. These are the major production centers. They produce finished leather, footwear, leather garments, leather goods, footwear components. And Uttar Pradesh is another major production center. Agra, it is 100% export oriented. If you take the global, any best brand footwear, it goes from Agra. It's 100% export oriented units, Agra. So Kanpur, that is another one of the oldest production center. Kanpur is the center for harness and saddlery. It is more than 2 centuries old, more than that. Okay, when British came to India, they established that harness and saddlery. That is how it, the cavalry, and how the industry developed there. So Agra, Noida, Kanpur, their major center in Uttar Pradesh. In Delhi also, leather garments, leather goods. Another one is Haryana, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Puducherry, and one more center is Kolkata. Kolkata is famous for handbags, hand gloves, industrial gloves, any safety gloves. They supply all over the world. This is a major production centers in India. So why I insist, why I emphasize that India is the best destination for increase our manufacturing, especially leather and footwear. The raw material availability, it's the highest in India. That is not only the raw material, it's a premium quality raw material. If you take the soft leather, the most soft leather, it is available in India. If you look at the goat and the kid skins, it is 92% world production is from India. The same way sheep and lamb skin, it is 38% from India. Same way the bovine, it is 48%. The raw material, we have abundant raw material supply in India. So anybody wants to invest in India, they can invest, manufacture and sell in India. And if you want to export out of India also. There is a huge potential for this one. So this is our export figures. In 2002-03, it was 1.8 billion. Now we jumped to 5 billion. It is around 6 billion. There is a huge scope. If you look at the product wise, leather footwear, the total component, total industry size, 5 billion, 40% comes goes to leather footwear production. Next major is leather goods and other components are there. That is how our production started. And if you look at our export, the major export destination is Europe. Earlier we used to export around 65%. Now it has come down to 54-55%. And now the major destination is US. US also our export has grown. It is around 15%. Earlier it was around 850 million. Now this year we may cross around 1 billion. That is our export is growing very fast in USA. But of course, Europe also there is getting declined. But there are some reasons due to continuous lockdown, all those issues. But Europe and America is a major destination for our export. And another issue is institutional support. If you take any institutions, we have all these institutions. This institution is spread across India, and all these institutions are located in and around Chennai. If you take Footwear Design and Development Institute, it is located near Pundamalli. That institute is there. It gives education, training, and also on-shop, off-shop training. It is giving that also, and 3 years courses are available. And Central Leather Research Institute. It's a government of India sponsored organization. As you all know, it is located in Adayaru. And this is a backbone for research and development of leather and footwear sector. And leather sector skill council, it gives skilling. Skilling is a major component. We last in one of the scheme, we skilled around 4.2 lakh people, something like that. So we skill all over India. We supply the huge abundant labor, manpower to the industry. And the Central Footwear Training Institute, that is also located in Guindy only. They also give training. And the National Institute of Fashion Technology. The fashion, I told you initially, this is a fashion industry, which gives, it is a fashion. Wearing footwear is like, if you look at it, they look at it as a fashion, and footwear as a fashion. They consider it as a fashion material. It's a fashion industry. You take it, I told you, the global brands. All these global brands are sourced from India. If you take Florsheim, Prada bag, you know, handbag. Zara, Gucci, Coach bag, I told. It is $105 here, it is $750 there. Clark shoes, Armani, Hush Puppies, Tommy. If you take any major brands in the world, all are sourced from India only. But still we are sourcing destination. Still we could not establish our brand image. So which requires a lot of country image building and industry image building. High Design, you might be knowing, it's one of the best global brand, which is produced in Pondicherry. So this is all these brands. Louis Vuitton bags, you would have heard. Louis Vuitton bags, it may be going lakhs, 3 lakh, 4 lakh, which are produced here only. So, but here the value of cost of production and everything, it's what I can say, it's low. We have lots of advantages for any manufacturer or any investor coming to India. They have advantage in labor, raw material availability, transport, and there is a huge incentives given by both government of India and state governments. There is a huge potential for any investors to come and invest in this industry. So this is some of the schemes which provide incentives to the any investor, whether for development of tanneries or purchase of machineries or manpower training or anything. It's not only the Government of India scheme. Government of India gave 400 million. We completed the project for last 3 years. From 2017 to 2021 March, we got 400 million from Government of India. Now another scheme is coming. So it is from Government of India. Apart from that, state governments. If you go to Government of West Bengal, Government of Tamil Nadu, Government of Delhi, Haryana, any Maharashtra, any state government, there is interstate competition. Among the states, there is a huge competition to support industry. Whatever we get from Government of India, we immediately get 15% incentives from Government of Tamil Nadu for development of industry. I thank Government Tamil Nadu bureaucrats for this one. So their support is very huge. And that is, I am telling only for the Government of India subsidy equal to that one. Apart from that, they also support the industry in a very big way for development of this industry in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is a major, Tamil Nadu in India, it exports around all India, this is a figure of 2019, 32,000, nearly 32,000 crore. That export was around 2 billion that time, 40% export. That is only for export. Domestic production also very high. Domestic production also out of 12 billion, I can say at least 3.5 billion from here. From Tamil Nadu. Same way, employment, total employment, we provide employment for 2 million people. So there is this opportunity which is available in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the largest export of leather footwear, finished leather footwear components, and leather signed in leather garments, gloves, and goods. This is the overall industry size. So what are the opportunities? I told about a global level, Indian level, and Tamil Nadu level, and where any investor. This is an economic conference. This is a wonderful initiative by Dr. V.R. Sampath. It's a much sought after. This today the world is globally integrated by trade and commerce. So it is beyond boundaries. Now geography boundary cannot stop anything. That is how the trade emerged in the last after liberalization. I don't want to talk on this one, but any investors, if you want to come and invest in leather and footwear industry, where is the opportunity? I tell you, there is an opportunity. Anyway, this opportunity, India is the second largest manufacturer of footwear. We produce 2.25 billion. We need another 2 billion in another 3 to 4 years. So right now we wear 1.9 pairs per capita consumption, but we need another 2 pairs. By another 4 years, we need at least 5 billion pairs per leather and non-leather footwear. So there is a huge production. Anybody can come and invest in India or Tamil Nadu. They can manufacture, they can market here itself. That's the opportunity. Footwear production. Next one is PU units. PU, whatever the non-leather material, we use a PU material. 90% it is imported. We don't have PU industry. There is a huge scope for any manufacturer to come and invest in PU industry. That is polyurethane. That is if you take any sleeker athleisure footwear, athletic footwear, all these things, the PU material they are using. And scaling up, we look for both brownfield and greenfield investment. So whatever you are investing, it is 100% repatriable. You take your investment 100% back. And also there are single window clearance available in Tamil Nadu and Government of India also. There is an opportunity for that one. Machinery, still we import 90% of the machinery, 98% of the machinery. There is a huge potential to come and invest in manufacturing of machinery. We import from China and Italy. There is a scope. And footwear components, the industry is scattered. There is a huge scope. So anybody who wants to come and invest and market in India, there is a scope. So with this, I conclude my talk about leather and footwear industry. If you have any doubts, apart from that, if you want to invest in India or Tamil Nadu, if you have any queries, kindly write us. We would be very happy to provide the inputs. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would be brief. These two eminent speakers and also Mr. Thomas from New York, they have done a fabulous job of explaining the opportunities that are available for startup. Mr. Thomas talked about real estate in America. And I think real estate around the world is a great opportunity if you do well. And the population is ever growing, the land is fixed. So definitely the secret of the trade is, if you invest money in the real estate, definitely you will be prosperous. And that is why he has explained very beautifully. Mr. Yadav has brought to us the idea of how the skill availability in India, how we are using it. And he talked about all the infrastructural facilities, ports, highways, railways, roadways, what to do on all these things. He has really brought us, he has given a summary, a survey of the opportunities present in terms of developing this state. And he also mentioned appropriately that Tamil Nadu is Detroit of India. Definitely it is, yeah, Detroit of India. We used to be good in textile in those days, Lancashire of UK, the Coimbatore. But today, he also talked about the entrepreneurship, the talent utilization, how we can use the available talents to produce new things, and particularly in handlooms. And he just said we have availability in the handloom. Friends, you all know that we have very highly skilled people around us, but how we use them is more important. We are more going into corporate. We have to go to the small people in the villages, in other areas where we need to identify the talents and bring the talents into a fruition. That is what Mr. Yadav has beautifully explained, and I am grateful. Secondly, and with regard to Mr. Selvam IAS, unbelievable story of the history of leather industry, the growth, the process, and also the potential that is available for us today. And I couldn't believe that a thing 120 rupees handbag can be sold for 750. But I want all of you to understand why. Because we produce, but we do not have the appropriate opportunity to package it, merchandising it, marketing it well. That's why I began the idea of, see, it's good that we can produce for all the leading designers in the world. But why don't we also, you take a package, small glass, if you buy it from Italy, I think Veeramani knows how he marketed. He is a very leading entrepreneur in catching the foreigners in terms of packaging. He was this jet black, he was an international specialist on the monuments. Nobody could beat him because he just captured the imagination, particularly of German and Japan. And that's that kind of uniqueness in product marketing and development and presentation is more important. A small thing, Italy, you just take a package, beautifully done. And if you take it a small piece, but India, beautiful place, beautiful product, but we shabbily package it. Our packaging is not right. Please, Selvam, it may be you are more an expert. We are ordinary people, but you must really concentrate on packaging. Packaging and marketing are the ingredients of developing the business worldwide. Then only our product, and even the lettering, Goshi and this boss and all other things. I have to admit before you, I normally don't buy shoes here because if I go to Dubai or America, I buy it, or Italy, because they're soft. And recently I had to have an emergency. My one shoe, and I had to come. So I went to a shop and I bought shoes. It's as good as Italian shoes in Chennai. But how come it was not advertised? So the product merchandising, marketing is a crucial point, and I think Selvan's presentation should be remembered forever in terms of our potential for improving the foreign export opportunities. I thank you for listening to us, and it's very nice of you, and I congratulate again, and I thank the eminent speakers, Yadav and Selvam are our gems in the administrative job. Thank you so much. When you the kind of spirit you displayed, I think I'm very happy about the future of Tamil Nadu and the India. Thank you.
Hosting our senior most patron, Dr. G. Viswanathan, to honor all the guests. வாங்க.
அமர்வின் தலைவர் பழனிதி பெரியசமையா அவர்களுக்கு டாக்டர் ஜி விஸ்வநாதன் அவர்கள் அடுத்து டிபி யாதவ் ஐஏஎஸ் அவர்களுக்கு அடுத்ததாக ஆர் செல்வம் ஐஏஎஸ் அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி சார்.